Hello, everyone, and welcome to Respawning Fire, the kick-ass irreverent gaming podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alexander Kazina, aka Cozy Bear, and this is our backlog accomplishment with Respawn and Friends review, also known as our BARF review of Returnal. Give me just a moment. I have a bit of phlegm in my throat, and I want to make sure I can get it out before we get on with today's review. I think I might be coming down with a slight cold because I've had a bit of that scratchy feel in my throat for the past couple of days. Hopefully it's not too major.
I love that you've got the mock neck zip up to keep your throat warm just in case.
I mean, very much. I was feeling awfully cool this evening in my basement. So I just decided to put this mock turtleneck on.
Dude, I can't wait for somebody to edit that remix.
Oh man, that's going to be fantastic. Decided. Joining me this evening for this review is the one and only Chad Michael Innes.
Hola, Coca-Cola. What's up?
Hola, Coca-Cola. And joining me as well this evening is the man of the hour, Adam Gumbert.
Hello, they call me Big Bad Bronson Reed. Oh, yeah.
And the man on the ones and twos, normally he's in front of a green screen, but now he's just joining us as usual, like a normal episode of the show. It's the one and only Joel Campos.
I have a new favorite Girl Scout cookie.
Oh.
What is it?
I want you guys to guess. One guess each.
Which one has the most nuts in it? There's like a peanut butter one.
I'm allergic to nuts, so there's that.
I know. You just love things that you can't have.
It is worth pointing out, we do have Girl Scouts in Canada, but the names of the cookies for the Girl Scout cookies in Canada, I think, are a little bit different from what they are in the States. So I don't know what its name is, but is it the one that's like a thin minty cooking?
No,
minty cookie.
That is my old favorite up until today.
Okay.
And I will say that it's not a new cookie. It's not a new Girl Scout cookie by any means.
I'm going to be honest. I've only ever really liked the Thin Mints. The rest of the Girl Scout cookies they're meh to pretty good. So I have not explored Girl Scout cookies outside of Thin Mints in about 30 years. But I'm going to take a guess that yours is the Adventurefuls. Indulgent brownie-inspired cookies top with caramel-flavored creme and a hint of sea salt.
Okay. I've never had that. Adam, what's your guess?
They changed the name of it. They used to be called Samoans, but it's like the coconut and chocolate.
That is it, and they are still called Samoas.
They are still called
Samoas, yeah.
Okay.
Caramel Delights / Samoas.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, those are good. Those are solid.
That's my favorite.
That's my new favorite, though.
I didn't think I was a coconut guy, but now I am. Sorry. Returnal.
Not a problem. Returning to Returnal. Remember that you can catch new episodes of the Respawning Fire podcast live on twitch.tv/Affable Idiots every Monday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as on YouTube and podcast services the following Wednesday. Some quick but important news before we get into the show proper. I am leaving Respawning Fire, not permanently, but as a weekly host. As you guys all know, last year in 2025, I quit my job as a quality assurance, and not as a quality assurance company. I wasn't literally a company. I quit my prior job at a quality assurance company to really get into the trenches and learn game development and create my own games. And up until this point, I've been able to balance my game development learnings and my, obligations to Respawning Fire. But over the past few months, there have been some developments in the game development side of things that have kind of strained my ability to juggle both. I won't go into detail here on exactly what some of these developments are, but they are very, very exciting. There's some very exciting opportunities, but they're the kind of exciting opportunities that I still need to work hard for. And so I've decided to kind of put the podcasting side of my creative output on the metaphorical back burner for the time being. Not quitting podcasting. I'll still remain part of Respawning Fire and will definitely appear on future episodes wherever it is that I can when it makes sense. And of course, you'll also definitely see me appear on some of my other friends' podcasts as well at some point, I'm sure. but I'm stepping away from doing it so as a weekly ongoing obligation thing. And so, yeah, nothing much else to say. Yes.
Cozy, for everyone listening, Cozy told us this last week.
You need to say it 10 times.
Cozy.
Yeah.
Darius. You told us this last week, so I've had time to prepare a little something for you.
Oh.
And wait, are we doing a regular episode after this, or are we just doing BARF today?
I don't have any notes written for a regular episode. I think it's just BARF.
Okay, we're just barfing today, so I'll do it here. I wrote you a goodbye song.
Oh no!
I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna I'm gonna play it here. I've got my guitar up. Na 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 na.
It's not.
It
might not be coming through. Yeah.
Oh, it's I played it. I was just getting my pitch from the guitar.
Okay.
Cozy, Alexander Cozy. Looking really cozy, got his half-neck turtleneck on. His lights were blue in his room downstairs. It matched his eyes and his sweater today. I wrote this song last week, and somehow matched his clothes just now. Cozy, did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I be. City of Angels movie. I didn't write you a song. I wish I had written you a song. I know that's not professional, but I made it up right now. But no, we appreciate everything that you've done for and with this podcast over the last several years. So thank you for your service. We look forward to more Cozy in the future in a little bit more. It'll be special. A little Cozy visits here and then will be special now rather than the norm. But I appreciate your going after your dreams and pursuing your passions and recognizing that life is short and you don't have time for everything at once. So props to you for recognizing that.
Yeah, I was talking to Chad the other day. We were playing Arc Raiders, which is a big surprise. I know. Me and Chad just picked up Arc Raiders for the first time. And I was telling Chad, I was like, I could tell Cozy was like kind of nervous to tell us about this. And I was just like, dude, like, you never have to apologize to me, like, for looking out for yourself, right? Like, that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you're going to be missed on the podcast and stuff every week, but like, you shouldn't feel the need to apologize for not being here, right? When you're doing something you want to do. You know what I mean? Like I don't think anybody here is going to have any issues with that. And if you do, come fucking see me. Come find me.
Oh no. I'm gonna start an interwar on the podcast. It's not gonna be good. This will be me leaving the show will be what ultimately breaks it apart, unfortunately, which is exactly what I feared. Well, thank you very much.
I haven't said anything yet, but I'm pretty sure his response is just
I was
full
going
of
to,
slurs.
but I think it's so much funnier if I don't say anything. You know what I'm saying? I think it's funnier that way.
All right.
Adam actually wrote a letter and sent it in the mail.
Oh, shit. Well, get ready for it to arrive in 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah,
All
6 to
right.
8 weeks, yep.
With that out of the way, like I said, I'll definitely be on future episodes of the show. I did go in and I basically filled out most of my Fantasy Critic games. And so I'm sure that, like, I'll probably still pop in for some of that stuff. We'll certainly figure something out. The thing is like, at the end of the day, I appreciate an outlet like Respawning Fire because I do want to, continue to podcast and I do want to continue to get better at podcasting. Like so many of the things that we do in life, it's a muscle. And if you don't exercise that muscle, eventually it atrophies and you get less good at it. And so I don't, like I said above, I don't want to just quit podcasting altogether because I do want to, still maintain that muscle. And this is a great avenue to do so. But like I talked about above, I do need to focus on some of my other efforts. And with that,
if we don't get a code for your first game,
I mean, it might be a minute before that code is even a thing. But I'll definitely keep you guys in mind.
Cozy's working on GTA 7, confirmed.
Oh man, I wish. I wish. Let's get back to talking about today's BARF review. At the beginning of every month, we ask you to go to patreon.com/respawningfire to vote on a game for us to play throughout the month. And at the beginning of January, 2 months ago, I asked you, our dear fans, to vote on 4 games that are soon due to receive sequels or spiritual successors in 2026. They were Returnal, High on Life, which I believe High on Life 2 has already been released as of the recording of this, Slay the Spire, and Code Vein. And you all unanimously voted on Returnal. And then halfway through the month, we decided that because Returnal is a bit on the long side, it would be best if we extended our playtime of Returnal through to the end of February as well, which is why this review is being done at the end of February. Let's talk a little bit about a little studio all the way from Finland called Housemarque. Housemarque, based in Helsinki, or wait, is it Helsinki?
Helsinki?
No,
Helsinki.
Helsinki. There we go. I knew that I was going to mess that up when I read it. The company was founded by Ilari Kuitinen and Harri Tikkanen. Very confident, 99% confident that's how their names are pronounced, in July of 1995. Basically, and it was formed because it was very much a Guns N' Roses like situation. There were 2 different video game companies in Helsinki called Bloodhouse and Terramark, and they merged together and became Housemarque. They are the
didn't even know
oldest video game developer in Finland. And while they spent much of their early existence, exclusively releasing games on PlayStation platforms, they were actually a wholly independent developer for a very, very long time. Kind of a lot like how Insomniac technically was an independent developer for a very, very long time. And then eventually they were acquired. Housemarque itself acquired in June of 2021, which was shortly after the release of Returnal. And of course, they are mostly known for making bullet hell or bullet hell inspired games. Speaking of which, my introduction to Housemarque was originally with Super Stardust HD, which is one of their premier games on the PlayStation 3. I don't know if you remember this, but after the great 2011 PlayStation Network outage that occurred that year, they basically gave people that owned a PlayStation 3 a bunch of free games as like part of their welcome back program. And Super Stardust HD was one of the games that they gave as part of that program. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to get my hand on Super Stardust HD. It was that or Little Big Planet, and Super Stardust HD seemed like the more interesting game. I'm curious, what are some other... Do any of you guys have like any prior experience with Housemarque outside of Returnal with some of the games that they released prior to Returnal? Did you guys play Super Stardust HD back in the day?
I played Resogun because I believe it was a PlayStation Plus free game when the PS4 launched. Or somewhere close to that.
In my case, when I got my PlayStation 4, it came with like a voucher for some PSN store credit. And so it was like Resogun was like $10, and I think the voucher was like almost exactly $10. So it wasn't part of like a free PSN deal, but it almost was free for that reason.
Yeah, so I played that 12 years ago. Contrast and Resogun are now up on PlayStation Plus. So yeah, that's when I played Resogun, which was a fun time. And I'd never beat it because like that arcadey game was not my jam at the time. But outside of that, I don't know if I've ever played another Housemarque game.
What about you guys? Dead Nation or Alien Nation, Chad? You never played one of those?
Oh, wait. Yeah, I did play Dead Nation.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a Housemarque game.
Mm-hmm. Basically, any game on the PlayStation 3 or 4 that was a shoot 'em up was made by Housemarque. So,
yeah, I've never played any other game by them. So this is my first one I've played.
Yeah, the thing that was kind of shocking was going on Wikipedia and reading all of the games that Housemarque produced after the release of Super Stardust HD, because like they made a few games before Super Stardust HD, but Super Stardust HD was kind of the beginning of them in sort of the modern era. The first game that they ever made was 1996's Super Stardust, which is like a very kind of primitive version of what we eventually got with HD. They made some games after that, like Alien Incident, The Reap, a snowboarding game called Supreme Snowboarding. But then after Super Stardust HD, you have Dead Nation. You have Outland. You have Resogun, obviously, which we talked about. You have Super Stardust Ultra, which was on the PlayStation 4. You have, what was the Super Stardust Delta, which was on the PlayStation Vita, which I played as well. You have Alien Nation. You have Nex Machina. And you have Matterfall, which was a PlayStation 4 exclusive that I completely forgot about. They also, fun fact, worked on another Vita game called Furmins. Does anybody remember Furmins? This was
Furmins with an F?
F, yes,
No.
Furmins. I only know about this one because it was a game that was included as part of PlayStation Plus for free at some point. It's basically one of those physics-based platforming games where you have to guide a bunch of little furry creatures called Furmins back to their mama Furmin. I think it's been a minute, and you have some like physics-based puzzle solving going on there. You mentioned, Chad, how you never beat Resogun. I was looking through my trophies ahead of today's episode, and I discovered not only had I beaten Resogun on PS4, but I also platinumed it on Vita as well. I don't know if you remember, but the Vita version of Resogun,
or maybe I did.
It was not nearly as good because its frame rate was like slashed in half. Like it is generally regarded as like a very inferior port of that game, but clearly good enough that I was like, I'm going to go through and platinum it all the same. Let's talk a little bit, however, about this game, Returnal. In November of 2017, Housemarque drew headlines when they announced on their website that arcade is dead. I have a little quote here from the article that was published at the time. For more than 20 years, we've been carrying the torch for arcade, bringing arcade co-op inspired games to the market with a Housemarque twist. I think it's fair to say we've gotten pretty good at it by now. However, despite critical successes and numerous awards, our games just haven't sold in significant numbers. Also, of them have reached a massive audience due to free game offerings across various digital sales channels. This unfortunately doesn't help pay for development. Now it's time to move on to new genres. Lackluster sales of Nex Machina, which was on PlayStation 4, have led us to thinking that it is time for us to bring our long-standing commitment to the arcade genre to an end. We're going to move forward with the industry, hence Nex Machina and Matterfall will be the last of their kind coming from our studio. Not longer after that, in 2018, Housemarque announced that they, as part of this sort of Arcade is Dead initiative, we're going to be working on a new AAA game, which is what would eventually be revealed to be Returnal. And I don't know if you guys remember this, they were also working on a Battle Royale game called Storm Divers. Any of you remember Storm Divers?
I do not remember Storm Divers, but probably good that thing never tried to come out.
I mean, it was 2018. Like, it was still early on enough in the era of the Battle Royale that it, who knows what might have happened in an alternate timeline. In a December 2018 blog post, Housemarque, they discussed their plans for Storm Divers, and they acknowledged in the post that Storm Divers was viewed by some of their fans as Housemarque kind of jumping on a bandwagon and sacrificing their identity, but they expressed confidence in the project, explaining, quote, "We initiated this project back in early 2015 and started prototyping with a small team after finishing Alienation in 2016. For a long time, we have wanted to explore PvP gameplay in our way, and we think that the game is shaping up great. However, in January of 2020, Housemarque announced that Storm Divers and all other smaller projects that they were cooking in the background at that moment were being put on hold so that they could exclusively focus on their AAA project. And this AAA project, Returnal, was officially unveiled at Sony's PlayStation 5 reveal event that happened in June of 2020. The game released in North America on April 30th, 2021. And the game's free Ascension update, which added cooperative multiplayer to the game and a new endless mode known as the Tower of Sisyphus, released about a year later on March 22nd, 2022. Before we just get into our preliminary, you got to say it 10 times. Before we get into our preliminary thoughts on Returnal, I'm curious, did any of you guys play this game at launch?
Yes. I played most of this game at launch, and I played the last bit of this game for BARF. I played up to like the end of chapter 4, and I remember at launch being like, this is the first PS5 game. And this was like, I think it was April or something like that. So maybe 4 or 5 months after PS5 had launched. But it really felt like this was the first PS5 game. It wasn't like Miles Morales, which was cross-platform, or Demon Souls, which was a remake. But this was like, it took advantage of the DualSense. You felt the raindrops on the DualSense in a really amazing way. The adaptive triggers of all the different weapons. And so it felt really cool. But it was also... it was frustrating to play at launch because you couldn't suspend a run, and a run could sometimes last a few hours in this game, depending on how much you're doing or how many bosses you have to beat. And while yes, the suspend feature, like you could just like enter rest mode on your PS5, you couldn't actually like, all right, I'm exhausted, I don't want to play this anymore, I want to jump over and play Arc Raiders with Joel, or I want to go and, play a little bit of Expedition 33 or what. You couldn't do that. Otherwise you lose all your progress. And so it wasn't until a few months later, I think it was, that they came out with the suspend your save feature.
Version 2.0, which launched in October of that year. So about half a year later. I'll say real quick with regards to
that was my experience with it.
Yeah. With regards to the adaptive triggers, when I first started playing this game, I was like, oh, wow, this is really novel. And then it's a very minor nitpick. But after a couple of hours of play, I was like, I don't know that I necessarily love this. I understand why they put this in this game, because this is like a great showcase for, what the DualSense controller can do uniquely compared to the older like PS4 controller. But like,
I turned that off.
Absolutely love it.
15 minutes into playing the video game.
I loved the like actual feeling of the trigger whenever you're shooting and how it kind of felt different for each weapons. The thing I never got used to, in fact, I forgot even how to do it, picking it back up a few years later now, was the hold down the left trigger halfway for aim down sights or all the way for alt mode. Holding down like in a game that fast paced and that like twitch response, to have the nimbleness to only push the trigger halfway down for aim down sights, it doesn't work.
You mentioned earlier, Chad, how like a lot of people were frustrated at launch, yourself included, by this game's lack of like a suspend feature. I did not play this game at launch. Me playing this game for BARF earlier at the beginning of January was my first time ever touching this game. But at the time of the game's release, I very much was abreast of a lot of the kind of conversation on Twitter and Blue Sky happening about this game. Actually, Blue Sky didn't exist at that point, so scratch that from the record. But I remember, I forget exactly what day it was, but I remember there was one morning where everybody woke up and they were like, hey, wait a minute, I put my PS4 into sleep mode, and overnight, Housemarque rolled out a new update for Returnal. And when they roll out a new update for a game and your game is like asleep on your PlayStation 5, it will just automatically close the game. And so everybody overnight lost their progress, and everyone was really pissed about that. Let's go ahead and let's talk about our top level thoughts on Returnal. I kind of teased out my thoughts on Returnal on earlier episodes of Respawning Fire leading up to today's review. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with Returnal, but it's definitely one of the more flawed games that I really enjoyed in recent memory. I think that Returnal is a really great shooter that pays tribute to Housemarque's legacy of making fantastic kind of bullet hell games. But I also think that its sort of great shooting mechanics are kind of held back by the fact that it's kind of a mediocre roguelike. And it's not something that like ultimately I'm going to spill too much milk about, because, we've by this point seen, quite a bit of footage of what we can expect out of Housemarque's next game, which is Saros. And everything that they've shown off about Saros shows a game that clearly took a lot of the criticisms of this game to heart and is delivering a much more solid roguelike experience. Nonetheless, this review is about this game. And yeah, I think it's just kind of a mediocre roguelike, not outright bad, but definitely not as best as some of the better games that the genre has to offer that have come out over the past half decade or so. Chad, what about you?
I thought this game was super cool. The world and the enemy design, and it was just like so stylish, and it felt really good to play. so yeah, I had a good time with it. It was a game that I stopped after I beat the 4th biome, and then jumping back into it, I was like, oh, I understand why I quit here, because it can be very frustrating at times. I think it's a little too hard at times. I think you don't get rewarded for a failed run as much as you probably should, or that we might be used to. And a failed run can feel devastating after several hours of devoting time to it. So, I think at times it's really frustrating, a little too punishing, but I think it makes some really cool choices in atmosphere and gameplay. And I'm hoping that Saros builds on all of that and takes the storytelling to the next level, takes the progression to the next level, and just makes this kind of go from maybe an 8.5 out of 10 to like a 10 out of 10.
Adam, what about you?
I'm kind of going off what you guys said. I think that the actual shoot 'em up or bullet hell gameplay is good and fun. I like the technology stuff, and then again, like the raindrops and all that stuff was cool. As a roguelite, it's probably one of the worst roguelikes I've ever played.
Wow.
It is just the mechanics of the roguelike. The game itself is good, but
Yeah.
again, I played it, back whenever it first came out. You couldn't suspend. Again, to have a roguelike and you have an hour and a half, a 2-hour run, and you can't leave it is not. There's a reason why the roguelike game does that, because it doesn't feel good. And it feels like it wastes your time unless you have, just hours and hours to commit to it, which is insane for a single run. And then I remember this happened back when it came out, the suspend feature, like, oh, it's in here. And I tried to suspend twice, and the game crashed both times that I loaded back into the game.
Oh, no.
This feature that you're talking about literally doesn't work. So as a roguelike, it is not a good video game. The other stuff is cool. I think it's a good game. I do not like this game very much at all, but I think it is good. The mechanics are good. So again, I like Housemarque's a good studio, so I'm not talking shit about them, but I think their commitment to making us a roguelike was a big mistake. And made the game much less enjoyable. But Saros should be better because, they've had 4 years to learn from it. So we'll see.
Joel, where do you come down on it?
Yeah, so this is interesting for me because I'm not very much into roguelike or roguelite games. I don't know what the fuck the difference is. I don't know what they classify as. I don't know. I'm just not into them, like, at all. But, like, something about Returnal has always, like, appealed to me. Like, it's always piqued my interest because it looks like a cool game. Like, it looks like it runs super smooth. The graphics are awesome, right? So it's something I always wanted to try, but the roguelike aspect is what deterred me up until now, like having a reason to play it. And having played it, like, man, I really don't like roguelike games at all. Like, they're just not for me. And, like, that's fine, right? Like I said, I played the game. I didn't beat it. I played like 6 to 7 hours. The gameplay is awesome. 6, 7. Yeah, real funny, Adam. I'm gonna mute you. Yeah, it's like the gameplay's awesome. The graphics are amazing. I love everything they're doing, like sci-fi wise with the game. The story is really interesting to me, to where I'll probably go like read a recap of the story or something, because something about like, yeah, I'm sure
there's not much there.
I have some thoughts on that later.
Okay,
Yeah.
but there's something about like not knowing what's going on and trying to figure out why you're here, like that kind of thing,
Yeah.
like being in the loop, the
That
whole loop
enigma,
aspect,
that mystery, yeah.
yeah, like that's really interesting to me. But like I said, the roguelike stuff, it felt like I was like Adam said, it felt like there was very little return to every run I was doing, to the point to where like I don't even think I beat the first boss. I might have, I don't know. I don't even think I did, just because like I feel like every time I got a weapon that was like, you know how you can like level up the weapon through each run. Every time I leveled it up to where I felt like I was actually doing powerful things, I would just die, and it would just make me so mad. And there was one time I was on a run for like probably close to an hour, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna go make dinner. Came back, it made me start all over. I didn't realize that there was a whole, you got to finish the run kind of thing, or suspend the run. So when I turned my PlayStation off and turned it back on later, I was kind of pissed off on that front. Yeah, these kind of games just aren't for me, and like that's okay. Like I can acknowledge that. I'll still play them for BARF games. Like a game like this where everybody says it's really good, like I'll try it once it goes on sale or is on PlayStation Plus or something. But I'm not itching to play Saros, the sequel, until like I see reviews and stuff on it and see what people say about the roguelike aspects of it. I need a baby ass baby mode is what it comes down to.
That's fair. That's fair. I realize that I should have asked this sooner, but I'll just sort of go around the room now. Joel, you're saying that you never really got out of like the first biome of the game?
No, I don't think so. It looked like I was in the Upside Down from Stranger Things the whole time I played.
You never got to a desert, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I managed to beat and platinum the game. Chad, you beat the game, but I'm guessing, did you platinum it as well, or?
I rolled credits on it, so I got through all 6 biomes, but I did not go back and platinum it. No.
Adam, did you beat the game?
Final ending.
No, I did the first 3, and I was like, this is more than enough.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's what's funny is like I think that we're all kind of, even though we all got through kind of various like lengths of the game, even though we're all a little bit across the board in terms of like how we would rank this game, what score we would give to it. I think we're all kind of in agreement of like, yeah, the game has a lot of like really fine shooting mechanics. Stylistically is really cool, but its roguelike elements kind of let it down a little bit. I do want to just say, like, the gunplay in this game is really, really strong. I think that the enemy design is consistently very, very strong. And I love overall, like, how much of Housemarque's DNA is sort of suffused throughout Returnal by virtue of the ways in which it incorporates these sort of bullet hell mechanics. A lot of Sony's first party studios often get accused of just making the same sort of third person action game, which isn't a totally fair critique at all. A game like The Last of Us is very different from Spider-Man, which is very different from Ghost of Yotei, for example. However, I do think that there's something to be said for some of these third-person action games being a little anonymous in terms of being able to identify which studio made them. Not to say that like any studio could have made games as good as Spider-Man or Ghost of Yotei. Only a studio with great pedigree and great just like institutional knowledge, like an Insomniac or a Sucker Punch, could have made those games. But also, there isn't necessarily a lot in those games that really sort of set them apart as being distinctly Insomniac or Sucker Punch. In like a hypothetical scenario, if you showed me these games and asked me, hey, do you know what studios developed these games? And I was like unaware of those studios to begin with, I wouldn't be able to tell you, oh yeah, that's clearly an Insomniac game. That's clearly a Sucker Punch game.
Those two studios in particular, I get mixed up all the time. Like when I think about Infamous, to me, for some reason, is always well, now
like it's like Spider-Man.
Was that Sucker Punch or was that Insomniac? That was Sucker Punch, right?
Sucker Punch was Infamous. Yeah. Insomniac is Spider-Man.
No, I don't know.
See, exactly. Those studios in my brain are the same.
But all that to say, that is not the case with Returnal, because it really, all of the kind of bullet hell elements of this game really make it feel identifiably like a Housemarque game. If you showed this game to me and I was not aware up front that it was developed by Housemarque, I genuinely might guess, oh, is this game made by Housemarque, knowing that it's a Sony game and that it has all these sort of bullet hell like elements in it, which is something that I really appreciate, especially considering that we started this whole segment talking about Housemarque being like, yeah, bullet hell is dead for us. We're not going to make bullet hell games anymore. It's great that they found a way to carry on that aspect of themselves, that aspect of their DNA, while still doing so in a, more evolved kind of AAA like format. So I really love that about this game. Talking about, on the flip side, this game just being kind of a mediocre roguelike. As you said, Chad, like one of this game's main problems is that it is just a little bit too long. Runs like take far longer than like I typically think of when I think about like the runs in a game like a Hades or a Balatro. Those games, it typically only takes me 40 minutes if Lady Luck grants me the luck to be able to properly complete a run.
That's where I think it all comes down to, is that these runs could be quick, but so much of your success depends on the luck of the draw of which parasites you come across, which guns you end up with, which artifacts you come across. And the only way to kind of guarantee, and so like, especially when you're doing runs of like 3 biomes, going from the very first biome all the way to the end of the third one before you hit that halfway point, it's just, you could skip through them through the little portals, but the only way to guarantee that you're going to come across something worth picking up to help you with that third boss fight is to go in every single room and every biome and not skip anything. And that's what takes forever. Otherwise, you're just left with shit.
Yeah, it's weirdly designed in that way. Like the game's like, oh, if you want to just skip to biomes 2 and 3 right away, like you can just do so easily, which actually that did help me out a little bit later on when I was going for the platinum of the game and I specifically just had to advance to certain biomes to get collectibles. But when you're trying to do a standard run, it's like the game presents you with that option, but it's never a good option. You have to make a point of like exploring every nook and cranny in every biome you go through, because if you're not doing that, you are potentially seriously missing out on some like essential upgrades that can really kind of leverage things in your favor later on. And, you know, as was already alluded to as well, Adam, you're talking about how like when you lose a run in this game, it is so soul crushing, not just because each run takes so much time, but also because of the, like just how sparse permanent upgrades are in this game. Whenever you lose a run, you usually have so little to kind of show for it. Whereas in something like Hades 2, even if you don't advance particularly far on a run in a game like Hades 2, maybe you met up with one of your homies and you gave them some syrup. What's it called? What's the syrup called in Hades?
Ambrosia.
Ambrosia. Or the honey stuff. Like a game like Hades 2 does a great job of always making each and every run feel meaningful, and like not so much in Returnal's case.
Yeah, I hate that, Joel, this is like the one roguelike you've played and you're like, I don't like the genre. And it's fine if you don't like this genre, but this is literally the worst one to try for your first roguelike. Like, it legitimately, like Cozy says, you can do a 2-hour run in this game and you lose, and what you have to show for it is like a 1 pip out of 30 to get to the next slight upgrade. It's like, it's so bad. It is such a bad progression system, and it requires you to just, yeah, like you said, go through every nook. It requires you to take up so much time to even have a chance to progress it at all. Because if you could skip to the third one and beat the third one, that'd be great. But you can't, unless you're just a god. At that point, like, what does it matter? It is very unbalanced as a roguelike.
So the run in which you beat the 6th biome, right, which essentially is beating the game, right? How long did that run take you guys?
That took me about 3 hours, but when you hit the halfway point, you start from biome 4, so you're going 4, 5, 6 rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right.
Oh, so as soon as you make a run through biome 3, then you can start off right there on that same run.
Yeah, there's a machine that like lets you swap from I'm doing 1, 2, 3 versus I'm doing 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, compared to
Still, 3
Hades,
hours
where you
is
could
crazy.
beat an entire up or down in 20 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Although
when I beat the 6th biome, I did do that. Like, that was my first run. Like, I had beat the 4th boss, took 4 years off, came back to it, and then I like got consistently into the 5th biome probably 6, 7 times, 6, 7. And then I explored every single nook and cranny, and the run that I beat the boss on was the first time that I had gotten past the 5th biome, the first time I was exploring the 6th area. So like I was exploring each and every part of that. And then I got to the 6th and I was like, oh, this is the final boss. I've spent 3 hours on this run. If I don't beat this boss, I'm done. If I die during this boss, I'm not doing that again.
Last thing I'll say, talking about the ways in which this game isn't fantastic as a roguelike, is I really think that this game is hurt by just how not great the kind of starting gun is whenever you start a run.
Yeah.
You start off each run with this like weak little pistol, and it's even if you level up some of its attributes, it's always just kind of a weak gun. And what I found was if like 6, 7 rooms into a run, I still
6,
haven't
7.
yet encountered. I didn't even mean to do that, or did I? If 6, 7 rooms into a run, I'd yet to encounter a better gun, either from like a chest or like an enemy drop or what have you. Almost invariably, that run would be like over soon after, because you really need to come across a better gun more quickly into any run that you're on. Otherwise, like eventually the kind of compounding difficulty of enemies being able to damage you, of you not being able to defeat enemies very quickly, will kind of catch up with you and just end runs early.
One of my least favorite things, though, is when you find a really good gun early and you're like, fuck yeah, I like this gun. I like the perks that it has on it. It's working really well for me. But then you get to the next biome or something like that, and your proficiency is really high, but you're still dealing with that really old gun. And you're like, fuck, I don't want to swap it for any of these other ones, because all the other ones I'm coming across are really shitty guns that I don't want. But you have to, because they're the higher level guns. And that was just a frustrating choice.
The weapon attribute system was also one of those things where, like, once I was able to wrap my head around how the weapon attributes worked, it was actually pretty game changing, and it honestly is what kind of carried me through to the very end of the game. But like, it really was sort of not obvious as to how they worked for like a really long time. Joel, did you figure out like the weapon attribute stuff from your time with the game, or was that kind of
Dude, no idea.
grasp?
I don't know what the hell I was doing. I don't know what game I played. I was just
Joel
didn't
so use
lost.
Pictos the entirety of Expedition 33, and he beat that game. I doubt he actually dove into
Yeah,
this.
I didn't go too in depth with like the gun stuff. I assumed it was just like pick up a gun and then you level it up and you find upgraded guns throughout your run or different guns. So yeah, I just felt like there was very little reward to every run. Like Adam said, I feel like that's the best way to put it, is because like, I don't know, there's nothing that pisses me off more than like you're playing a game and you lose a shit ton of progress because your little sister stumbled over the power cord, right? And that's how it felt. That's how it felt in this game, like time after time. Like every time I wanted to play, it was like, oh, I can only get to this same area that I was before. And I'm just dying. So it just wasn't a good time for me.
So just real quick to explain the whole kind of weapon attribute system. Basically, when you pick up a gun, it will have certain attributes, which are like power-ups, like little buffs that change the way that the gun functions, that are normally locked. And to unlock them, you have to just repeatedly use that gun. Once they become unlocked, they become unlocked on future subsequent runs. So it is kind of a soft way that the game has these sorts of permanent upgrades that can make runs more easy, like later on. And if you have a gun that has like a certain tier of upgrade unlocked, then you have a chance in the future of like finding a similar kind of attribute for that gun, but at like a higher tier that you also have to unlock. So for example, one of the main weapons I used was called the Tachyomatic Carbine, which had an attribute called Leech Rounds, which made it so that whenever you shoot an enemy, you have a small chance of healing some item. And so I would level that up to level 1, and then on a subsequent run, I would find the level 2 version of that, and then I would level that up, it'd be able to eventually get level 3, so on and so forth. It really did wonders for my runs the more and more that I leveled up guns in this manner. But like, it's a confusing system that relies too much on randomness. And like, I had to like consult a lot of guides to figure out how it worked and how to kind of get the most out of it. Real quick, before we talk about some of the kind of things that happen after this game's sort of main campaign, what do we all think about the story of Returnal? Were you able to grasp it? Any hard thoughts on it?
I mean, I already kind of talked about what I thought. I just think like the idea of it is really cool, of, you know, kind of this insomnia idea, not insomnia, what's it called?
Amnesia?
Amnesia. Yeah, like this amnesia idea where it's like you keep ending up here and you don't know how you got there, why you're there, or what's going on, right? And you're trying to figure it all out. The whole idea of that is really cool to me. But from what Chad said, it doesn't sound very promising that it really goes much of anywhere interesting.
Yeah, from the, I ended up watching a YouTube video afterwards, which is like the story of Returnal, and even the person who was like breaking down the story, they're like, "Here's what we know," and like, "Here's some guesses." I don't know. Her kid's named Helios, and that's kind of this Greek god, but also the rest of the enemies, like they're also named Greek gods. So there's probably something
and
there.
her house was there. Her house was in there.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's a very thin story of what we are doing spoilers. That's what BARF is. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, it's a very thin story of she got in a car wreck. They went off of a bridge. Her daughter in the back seat drowned. She couldn't save her, and Celine swims up to the top. She had seen an astronaut, quote unquote, which is why she swerved out of the way and why they went off the bridge anyway. And then you find out that the astronaut was her somehow. And it's not
So did she cause a wreck and she's guilty because she made someone kill their kid, or is that her kid that died? They have no interest in telling you. It doesn't matter. Figure it out yourself.
It doesn't matter.
So they're trying to do like an interstellar thing, but not succeeding.
But the whole space thing isn't just a metaphor for her going through her grief. None of it's real.
Exactly. Yeah. None of it. She's not actually in space.
It's a dream.
She's just like,
the game is a dream.
Yeah. Exactly. It's all in her head.
It's purgatory.
So, like to that point about this game being a metaphor, to this game being a dream, one of my like issues that I had with this game story is I felt like the game introduces all the like metaphorical stuff involving the house very early on, And when it started introducing that stuff, I still felt like I hadn't fully grasped the like rules of like the sci-fi world that Celine is from. I didn't understand like, you know, what exactly is she in this world? Is she like a scout? Is she part of the military? Like all that stuff was still very kind of opaque for me. And it's like, I know like everybody loves it when we sit down and play armchair quarterback for these very like lavishly and, you know, complicated video games that come out from these incredibly, you know, like hardworking AAA studios. But like if I could offer up like a little bit of like Monday morning quarterbacking, it would be, I feel like the game would have been better off had it kind of like spent the first act or so just really getting you used to like the base rules, the base world of the world of Returnal, explaining who Celine is, where she comes from, what she was on a mission to do. And then only when you have all this stuff firmly established, once you get into Act 2, then you start to introduce the house. Then you start to introduce this idea that actually everything she's experiencing is a metaphor. I feel like that would have been a better call, but the game
I think that would have been the better call if they had more to say. What it really felt like to me was they made some cool looking people and some cool looking enemies and some dope biomes and some great gameplay mechanics, and they strung it all together. And then in playtesting, they said, people told them, I don't care about it. Why am I doing this? Why am I going from biome to biome? Who is this person? I don't care about what I'm doing. And they're like, we'll string together some, she's got a dead kid.
You got a dead kid? Yeah, that sounds good.
There's a car.
She killed her dead kid. But it wasn't her.
Yeah. Oh, we should do, space is cool, right? Space thing. Well, what if she's an astronaut? No, because she's in the car. Fuck it. Do them both. She's in the car and she's an astronaut. I don't care. It's mysterious. And tell you what, we'll just do flashes of each one, so you don't really even care about whether or not the answer is real
cars.
or not.
You're like, it's a really good idea to have a mysterious story. Don't actually have a concrete answer, so they have to put it together. But there's actually never a real answer. Ooh, how smart we are!
There was no story there when they were making this game. I don't believe that at all. I thought they were making something cool, and the story was put in there because they felt like they needed something.
It's like, I don't know if anybody here watched the final season of Stranger Things. I know Chad did. But there were a bunch of things throughout the season that people were like overanalyzing every episode, like everything. And like there were videos of like theories. People were like, okay, there's a secret episode that's going to come out after the finale that reveals all this other stuff, And it's like, no, nothing happened. It just sucks because it's like, the writers did so good on that show for so long and then just dropped the ball completely to where people were overanalyzing it, and the overanalysis of it would have been a really, really cool ending if they had just one more episode and did this. And that's how it kind of seems like this game is, where it's like they have a really cool set piece, they have a lot of really cool stuff going for it, but they kind of just shoehorned some sort of story. And then when somebody asks them, hey, so like what happened to her, they could just be like, what do you think happened to her? And then try and sound like they're super like inquisitive and like in the know and creative, but really it's just kind of lazy. I don't know.
There was an interesting, like, I know we hinted at this before the thing and y'all didn't get far enough to even know that it was there, but in the fourth biome, you're chasing this music and you just hear this organ. The fourth boss, you encounter them and they're playing an organ, and it's just the motif from Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper, which I only know because of Saturday Night Live and the cowbell thing. But you just hear, that's just like the theme, the music that's playing. And it's just that over and over. And it's like eerie and cool. And then you get to like the end of the sixth biome and you realize, oh, that was the song that was playing on the radio. Oh, that's Blue Oyster. Oh, that's the... And you realize that's what the person was playing on the organ the whole time. You're like, oh, that's kind of cool.
It's all interconnected, but what does it mean? It's not.
So you're telling me that through like a 2-hour run, you're just hearing fucking "Don't Fear the Reaper" the whole time?
You're just hearing ominous tones in that same.
Oh, okay. I'll look that up.
And then you get to a cutscene that says that you hear a snippet of that. They licensed that song just for that.
It's one of those cases where I think, like, I do want to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. Like we talked earlier about some of the prior games that Housemarque worked on. And like, typically, they don't really, prior to this game, they didn't really make story forward games. This is kind of like their most story forward game. And so I feel like any first, attempt at bat was not going to be necessarily the best thing ever. And I think certainly there's a lot of room for them to really kind of improve upon what they did here with Saros. Before we talk about Saros, though, anybody here check out the Ascension update content? So the co-op mode, the Tower of Sisyphus.
I did not do the co-op mode. I wish I would have, honestly, because that seems like it probably would have been really helpful for those last couple biomes. But I did play a little bit of the Tower of Sisyphus just as, like, I used that as a way to say, all right, I'm going to jump into this again 4 years later. Let me just play this endless tower as a way to, remind myself of the mechanics of this game. And so I did, I think, just one run of, I don't know how many levels, maybe 8 or 9 different levels that I ended up doing, but that's all I did.
I, quote unquote, beat the Tower of Sisyphus, which it's impossible to beat it because it just, like, ascends upward infinitely. But I, like, quote unquote rolled credits on like the main news story content that was in the Tower of Sisyphus. Beat that new
boss. I didn't even realize that boss was a thing until an hour ago.
The thing about the Tower of Sisyphus stuff is like it's not good enough that I would recommend just playing this game just to play the Tower of Sisyphus content. But I was like kind of pleasantly surprised by how many improvements the Tower of Sisyphus stuff offered over the base game in terms of the way that it improves upon the base game's roguelike elements. One of the things that it does, for example, is you start a run, you go through one room where you got the basic ass pistol. Immediately after that, you're presented with a new chamber where you are immediately given the option of using a better gun. The game's like immediately like, yeah, we know the starting gun sucks. We're going to immediately give you something better. Huge thumbs up for that reason. Another thing, there's a lot more like permanent, like unlockable upgrades that you can get as you ascend upward. There are these like little orbs of energy that after you shoot them on like upper tiers of the tower, on lower tiers on subsequent runs, they will unlock like these chests that you can use to get new consumables for you on subsequent runs. Runs in general like are a lot quicker. Rooms are a lot faster to clear and like have less items hidden in their nooks and crannies, and so you don't have to spend like hours upon hours like constantly searching them to find new stuff that you need for subsequent runs. There's like no ambiguity of whether or not you should skip over certain areas or not, because the game is all just taking place in this single linear like route upwards. Again, overall, like I'm not like, oh wow, the greatest DLC of all time, the greatest upgrade of all time, but playing Ascension is like, wow, you can really tell that they took a lot of the critiques of the game's roguelike elements to heart and did the best job that they could given the tools that were available at their disposal to like make a better version of Returnal within Returnal. And so I enjoyed my time with it. And so, yeah, last section that I have here in my notes before we kind of close out the episode is just called looking forward to the future with Saros. And like, what's funny is I feel like we've kind of already kind of touched up on this a lot. I think that, for all the issues that we had with Returnal, I think that there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about Saros. And what's funny is that we actually just recently got a big new look at Saros in the PlayStation State of Play showcase that happened not too long ago, and a lot of what they showed of Saros in that showcase very much seemed like, yeah, we heard your criticisms of Returnal, being like, yeah, you have a home base that you can kind of come back to between runs, and when you come back to this home base, you can speak to your homies and learn more about them, and they can potentially give you benefits or new kind of tantalizing story content to kind of keep you going forward. It really seems like a
skill tree too that you're upgrading yourself after every run, and
that like again, Returnal had these sorts of permanent upgrades that you could carry across runs via things like the weapon attribute stuff. But here it seems like in Saros they're making all that stuff a lot more streamlined and a lot more obvious than it was in Returnal. So all that stuff seems really cool.
Yeah, I'm pumped for Saros, honestly. I liked this game, but it was frustrating to play a lot of the time. So Saros seems like it solves a lot of that. And this seems like a cool fucking world again. And like, that's what draws me in about this whole, about Returnal and this one. It's just like, it's just a cool world with cool looking shit and ominous.
I got a question. Story. What would you rate this game out of 10? Like me personally, having not played that much, I'd probably give it about a 6. Just because I liked what I played in terms of like the gameplay, but the roguelite stuff just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I'm like an 8.
I'm like hovering between like a 7.5 to like an 8. It's in that range.
Flat 7.
Flat 7. There we go.
Flat 7.
Last question that I wanted to ask before we close out tonight's episode. Do we think that the story, the world of Saros, is going to tie into Returnal? Are we going to see, I know we joked about it on prior episodes of the show, will we see Selene in Saros?
Well, unless Saros is all in Celine's head, there's not a lot of overlap unless Selene herself is a character. Or we find out that Rahul Kohli was the outfit that she was wearing as an astronaut, or her son,
or he's trying to get into her head to figure something out, and it's going to evolve the story of the first one.
Maybe.
Alrighty. I was taking a moment to look up. There was that one Capcom game where it's revealed that like your like suit of armor or like your weapon is actually your wife, and that like she's actually been Bionic Commando. That's the one.
Your arm is your wife. Is your wife's dead soul or whatever. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. What if it's revealed in Saros that the suit you're wearing is actually Selene? She's transformed into a suit. Now she's always with you.
It's a metaphor for whatever bullshit they're gonna make up.
And with that, we've arrived at the end of tonight's BARF review. As was said at the top of the show, remember, as always, that you can catch regular episodes of the Respawning Fire podcast live on twitch.tv/respawningfire every Monday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as on YouTube and podcast services the following Wednesday. And of course, you can also look forward to this episode going up on YouTube and podcast services soon as well. But now that... Hold on. Brain short-circuited right at the finish line. But that's not all. Now that Returnal is finally done and over with, we're ready to jump into our BARF game for the month of March, which I don't believe that we have that poll up on our Patreon just yet, but I'd imagine...
But it will be up it'll be up by the end of the night, I promise.
By the time that you are listening to this on YouTube and podcast services, it will be up over there. Chad, do you have any teases, any ideas in mind of what might be up in the poll? Anything you want to leave the fans with?
All 4 are going to be Pokemon Leaf Green on the Nintendo Switch 2.
Oh, shit. Chad wants to make sure that Nintendo gets that $20 from you. So yeah, look forward to that. Definitely vote on that, and we'll obviously play it alongside you as usual. And with that, we'd like to thank you once again for tuning in to tonight's episode of Respawning Fire. We'll see you next time.